Autoimmune conditions don't just come from living unhealthy lives. It comes from living a life out of alignment. 1 in 5 people will develop an autoimmune disease in their lifetime, and the vast majority of them will spend years, sometimes the rest of their lives, managing symptoms without ever understanding what actually causes them. And if you've been told your immune system is attacking your own body, but nobody has explained why, or if you've tried every protocol, every diet, every supplement, and still can't get ahead, there's a reason for that. I'm Nancy Mott, physiotherapist and autoimmune freedom coach, and I've spent over 20 years helping people with chronic pain and autoimmune conditions find answers that conventional medicine never gives them. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what autoimmune disease is, the most common symptoms, the real root causes, and the one thing that 90% of patients are never told that could finally make everything else start to make sense. Most people have heard the term autoimmune disease, but very few can actually explain what it means. And at its core, an autoimmune condition is where your immune system, the system designed to protect you, starts attacking your own body by mistake. Or is it a mistake? To really understand why that matters, you need to understand what your immune system is designed to do. Think of it like a highly sophisticated security system. It's constantly scanning your body, identifying anything foreign or that could look like a threat. So viruses, bacteria, toxins, strange noises, strange smells, anything that seems fishy or, as the kids now say, sus. And then your body should respond to these cues from your immune system by neutralizing those threats. Most importantly, your immune system should know the difference between what belongs in your body and what doesn't. It also should know what is truly a threat and what is not a threat. But when you have an autoimmune condition that's finally diagnosed, that distinction really breaks down. By the time you're diagnosed, your immune system has started flagging your own healthy cells as dangerous and begins attacking them. And depending on where that attack is happening, you get a different diagnosis. So if it's in your thyroid, it might be Hashimoto's or Graves'. If it's in your joints, it's considered rheumatoid arthritis. If it's in your nervous system, it's considered multiple sclerosis. If it's in the gut, it's called Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. So there are over 80 recognized autoimmune conditions, different names, different symptoms, different body parts. But underneath all of them is the same core issue, an immune system that has lost its ability to stand down, to distinguish between real threat and perceived threat. And this isn't rare. Autoimmune disease affects tens of millions of people, and that number is rising every year. So which makes this one of the most common and most misunderstood categories of chronic illness today. And that misunderstanding is exactly why people suffer for longer than they have to. So who gets it and why it's so hard to diagnose? Autoimmune disease doesn't affect everyone equally. About 80% of people with autoimmune conditions are women. And a big reason for that comes down to hormones, especially estrogen, and how they influence the immune system. So women's immune systems are naturally more reactive. That can be protective, but it also makes us more vulnerable to immune dysregulation. And what's interesting is when these conditions tend to show up. So during puberty, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, all periods of major hormonal shifts. So there's a clear pattern here. But here's where things get frustrating, because even when symptoms start, people don't get answers quickly. So on average, it takes 3 to 5 years to receive a diagnosis, and sometimes even longer. And during that time, women are dealing with symptoms like constant fatigue that doesn't improve with rest, brain fog and migraines, joint pain that just moves around, digestive issues, skin changes, hair thinning, sleep problems, mood shifts. So many signs and cues that the immune system is on hyper alert. But because we're not taught how to address these symptoms early on, they tend to persist until they get to a point where it leads to a diagnosis. So individually, these symptoms are easy to dismiss because the lab test might still be normal. They get labeled as just stress or burnout or part of aging or part of being a new mom. And that's exactly what happens to most people. So people end up stuck in this loop. They know something is wrong. Their body's clearly telling them something is wrong, but they keep getting told everything looks fine to the point where they feel like they're probably just overanalyzing it. And so they keep pushing through, ignoring their symptoms, and keep going about life the way that they were before. And that's the problem, because the way they were going about their life is exactly what caused the inflammation to persist. And if that's been your experience, I just want to say it's not in your head. It's not weakness. It's a gap in how autoimmune conditions are identified. I'm going to share an example of a client, but really this could be anybody because I've seen this story play out so often. The most common condition that women tend to experience is Hashimoto's. And what happens is that they have the early signs of brain fog and energy crashes and feeling exhausted and not feeling like themselves, but they just push through because they think and they've been told that that's just a normal part of being a woman. It's a normal part of being a new mom or whatever stage of life they're going through. And what's so frustrating about this is that there's so much that can be done before you're diagnosed. If you recognize these signs early on and you start to really understand that this is not a normal part of being a woman, it's not a normal part of aging, it's common but not normal, then you can be like one of my clients, Sharon. She had all these issues. She was diagnosed. She's dealt with it for 20 years. So I see this all the time in clients, especially women who have Hashimoto's. They deal with extreme fatigue and a sense of brain fog and not feeling like themselves, but because they keep being told that everything's normal and they're fine, they just push through and they keep going to work. They keep being the leader at what they do. Everybody depends on them. They don't want to let anybody down. And they get to the point where they burn out and then they're forced to have to take time off work, forced to, because their body will not keep pushing through anymore. Like Hashimoto's is something that you can definitely heal from. It's just that you don't have to keep pushing through to the point of burnout because you don't need a diagnosis before you can do something about this inflammation. And this leads directly into what happens next, which is what happens when you do finally get diagnosed. So once a diagnosis is given, treatment usually follows a very predictable path. First, you get anti-inflammatories and medications, things like NSAIDs or corticosteroids to reduce inflammation and manage symptoms, or if you have certain autoimmune conditions, you'll have certain medications for those conditions. And in some cases, you're even having to take severe immunosuppressants, and these work by suppressing your immune system. And now, there are biologics, which are more targeted and for many people a major step forward in symptom relief. And these treatments are real and they matter and they work to calm the symptoms. And at this point, if you're diagnosed, sometimes it can feel medically necessary because your body will really suffer if you don't have these treatments available because they can and do reduce symptoms. They can make your life more manageable. So I'm not here to dismiss conventional treatment, but it is about understanding the limitation because all of these approaches are focused on managing the immune response. They reduce the output of the condition. What they don't do is explain why the immune system became dysregulated in the first place. And that's the gap. That's why so many people feel like they're constantly managing, adjusting medications, and watching for flare-ups, trying to stay ahead of the next setback. And functional medicine has helped to expand this conversation. So they look at things like gut health and food sensitivities and toxins and nutrient deficiencies. And for many people, addressing those factors creates real improvement. But even then, there's still often a missing piece. And that missing piece is what determines whether someone stays in management or actually moves towards healing. So let's pause here for a second, because if you've been nodding along to any of this, if the symptoms sound familiar, if the diagnostic journey sounds like yours, there is a free tool I created that I want you to know about. It's called the Inflammation Indicator Test. It takes about 5 minutes to complete, and it identifies the real roots of your inflammation. And I'm not just talking about gut health or your lifestyle or stress levels. I'm talking about the real roots that drive inflammation in your mind, your body, and your life. And when you do this test, it's super quick. It takes only 5 minutes or so, but it'll give you a personalized plan based on your results. It's completely free. The link is in the description, and it's going to give you insight that no doctor or protocol is able to give you because it shows you where in your life you're living out of alignment. And that's what I'm going to be talking about next. So as much as conventional medicine and even functional medicine has done a lot to help women navigate their symptoms, manage their symptoms, and kind of keep things at bay, the reason why even the perfect diet, the perfect protocol, and all the immunosuppressants don't get you to the next stage of healing is that true healing is not just about the gut, the food, or toxins in your environment. Here's what most people are never told. Your immune system doesn't operate in isolation. It's directly influenced by your nervous system. And if your nervous system is stuck in a chronic state of stress, your body never fully returns to a state of safety. And when your body doesn't feel safe, your immune system doesn't regulate properly. So at the beginning of this video, I shared that your immune system's job is to know the difference between what's safe and not safe. But if there is a threat in the background, and if that threat comes from your subconscious mind or your subconscious programming that believes that that suppressed emotion from that experience that you had when you were a kid, or when you were a teenager, or something that happened at work 5 years ago, or something that happened in your marriage 10 years ago, whatever that threat that wasn't addressed, that stays in your subconscious programming, and your nervous system will keep paying attention to that thing and keep your body on high alert, which, if you recall, that's exactly what your immune system is supposed to do. Your immune system is supposed to be the system that protects your body. So if it gets a signal from your subconscious programming, which influences your nervous system will then send an alarm that will be heard by your immune system. Then the immune system will be activated and will stay in protection mode. Now that's a good thing, because we want our immune system to protect us, because that's its job. What we don't want is for the immune system to stay on all the time, because now we don't really take it seriously. If the alarm's always ringing and we don't see a fire, we're going to think that the security system isn't working properly. So we'll go shut off the alarm system, and then now we're really not protected. That's what happens, is that the immune system is actually working properly. It is trying to protect you, but it doesn't know the difference between the threat from your subconscious programming or your nervous system and the real threat of maybe a burglar in your house. And that's where it has to come from you. You have to learn to connect with yourself to identify what are the subconscious threats that are signaling your immune system to stay activated. Because when this happens, again, it's unable to distinguish real threats from false threats. And over time, that's where the misfiring starts to happen, and that's when the body begins turning on itself. And this is the piece that explains why. You can clean up your diet, fix your gut, take all the right supplements, and still feel like something is missing, because the system that controls everything else was never addressed. And what I said at the top of this video is that when you're living out of alignment, when you're not following your heart, when you're doing things out of obligation, when you're trying to people please, where you're following someone else's dreams, where you're living out of fear, where you're scared of being a failure, all this will activate your alarm system. Because I truly believe that your immune system is working perfectly. It's when you disconnect your true self to your immune system doesn't know what you want. It just sees this false life that you're living. Then the immune system says, well, I don't like this. I feel like there's a misalignment here, so it'll keep sounding the alarm. And that misalignment can be a simple case of just living in survival mode. When you're always trying to keep up with this perfect life, when you're not allowed to just be yourself, when you're not allowed to make mistakes, you're not allowed to do things imperfectly, your immune system will stay constantly activated. This is why I believe that women have autoimmune conditions 4 or 5 times the rate that men do. Not just because we have hormones, men have hormones too, not just because we have a cycle, but because we are often living a life where we have so many responsibilities and we're not allowed to be imperfect. So I think that's the real threat in that our nervous system experiences every day. The threat or the feeling of living a life out of alignment, and that constant threat will keep activating the immune system. So I know this is different from everything you probably heard before, but this is what I believe is truly the root of most autoimmune conditions. Either you're living a life out of alignment or you're living a life out of fear, and often both. But when you know what that is, now you know that there's something you can do about it. And if you're not sure, this is exactly why I created a free training to walk you through how to start living a life that is more true to you. It's a simple framework I created so that you can learn to build skills, and you don't have to keep waiting around for doctor's appointments and lab tests and following protocols. You can learn a very simple process on how to work with your body so that you can start to make real changes and learn how to heal and get real results without waiting for someone else to come fix you. The link to this workshop is found in the description below. I hope this video resonated with you. I know it's, again, very different than what you've heard, but if you keep hearing the same things and you keep doing that and it's not working, maybe it's time to do something different. And I think the best time to do something different is now, especially if you're frustrated with what results you've been getting. I believe that if you listen to your heart and your intuition, it will guide you to the best decision for yourself, your health, and your future. And this workshop that I created will help you do exactly that. So you can join that in the link below. Until next time, please subscribe, leave me a comment. Would love to know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.